All right, so I gotta tell you guys something important. This is something you don't really want to hear, something that you don't really hear too often. But I want you to tell you one of the consistent qualities of an efficient leader versus the qualities of an inefficient leader. And really, there's one major consistency in an efficient leader, and that efficiency is, hey, chill out, man. What happened though? Alright. Anyways, what was I saying? Probably some lunatic was just throwing stones at us. Alright, so what I was saying was this. Alright, so back to what I was saying was crazy guy was just throwing stones at us. I told him chill out. Alright, so actually it relates to it though. So this is what efficient leaders do consistently. They employ violent people. Okay? That's what efficient leaders do consistently. And this is why one of the major lessons I learned in life was really early. When my mother told me that some goons came to visit after some debt collection notice, right? Basically, she might have had some debt, maybe like with the power company or something like that, like Con Ed. And then some dudes came by the door talking about, you better pay this time or that time. Now, of course, I doubt it was Con Ed, because Con Ed is not that expensive. But the whole point being that some goons showed up for some bill. Now, she didn't, fill me in on the details because, I was just a kid. But basically, she said, look, these tough-looking guys showed up. She's like, what are you going to do? Right? But of course, that was just, super brave black woman. You know what I mean? Obviously, these goons do things. You know what I'm saying? But that's the thing about efficient leaders all over. And one of the things about inefficient leaders is that they're persuaded not to do, not to employ violence. You know what I mean? Or they persuade people not to engage in violence. And what happens is that they don't get anything done. Now, there's two things to this, right? They can be intentional misleaders. Now, some people are not intentional misleaders. Some people are, fathom themselves, spiritual leaders or something. And they try to, you hear the church now, right? And they try to make people not do that. But my point being is this, right? Efficient leaders employ violence. And now I want to just tell you that basically you see this in economics. In the Western world, you see this in economics and you see this in politics. Right now there are speculations about certain personages, I gotta go a little closer, certain personages being assassinated and that kind of thing, right? But that's a normal thing in the history of the world, right? People assassinating people. Now, here's where the cultural institutions, because there's political, there's politics, economics, and culture, right? And they're all just derivative economics. But on the cultural front, you do something with culture, which is you either, you teach your masses pretty much, don't employ violence, right? That's how religion is, peaceful and peaceful. But at the same time, you also tell them how to direct violence. Who is worthy of violence? How to enact violence. This is why a lot of times when we look at religion, we call it worship. Instead of worship, we call it worship. Because it's really an instrument of warfare, right? Because one, you're trying to placate your population. You're trying to tell your people to be less violent, right? But on the other hand, you're also telling them You're also telling them to go. You're also telling people to not be. You're also telling people to be violent, right, in their own way, right, and who to direct it to. For instance, the Jew against the Gentile, or the Muslim against the whatever, right? So what I'm saying is that that's it pretty much, right? So again, that's what you have to explore. Now, I want to talk about one of the things that I want. See, there's a phrase called "don't put." If you want to hide something from black people, put it in a book, right? Now, I kind of believe in if you want to hide something from white people, put it in a book. You know, so I put in my book something that I found online, so you can look it up. Basically, it's called Sankara's Last Letter. Okay, and so Thomas Sankara, great leader. Or let's look at that. Look at that. Thomas Sankara, who we suppose is a great leader, right? He decided to he was writing a letter where he was basically saying to his people, he said, basically Thomas Sankara told us, do not, how do you say, don't, like basically some people were saying, hey, look, somebody else is trying to kill you. And he said, I ain't worried about that. You get what I'm saying? He said, I'm not worried about that. And Sankara then was killed by this exact person. And what they were doing was they were telling him, look, handle this guy. And he's like, look, I think we should do a peaceful resolution. And they were like, look, I don't think there's going to be a peaceful resolution. Long story short, Thomas Sankara is killed shortly after. Now, you'd have to go look at the book, see if it was Thomas Sankara. I think it's Thomas Sankara. But the whole thing is that if you're not willing to employ violence, don't even think about being a leader. You know? Don't even think about being a leader. Don't even think about being a man, honestly. Don't even think about being a father. Don't even think about raising a family. One of the things that leaders do consistently is employ violence. So what's interesting about the West is that they have their political and economic institutions that are about employing violence. And then you go to some of their cultural institutions, which are kind of two-faced, you know? Some of the cultural institutions are about employing violence, and some of them aren't. But then you go into, like, you know, China or Russia or, you know, outside of the West, really, right? And they're not even pretending that leadership is not about violence. Because remember, leadership is about violence, okay? Leadership is about violence in the sense that leadership, remember what the old phrase is, the state is the monopolizer of violence. So anyway, that's pretty much what it is, though. It's like, if you're not really trying to, and this is the main thing to take away from it. If you're not trying to teach your family how to be violent and when to be violent, right? You're not really teaching them to be leaders. So I would say, look, engage in, you know, building schools, but you can't fool yourself and think that a school as a cultural institution that doesn't teach about, hey, look, these are the enemies. This is what they did. This is who you're supposed to be against, and this is this is who you're supposed to kill. You know, ready to die versus ready to kill. If you're not ready to kill, if you're not teaching people to be ready to kill, you're kind of cucking them. That's pretty much it.